Pat McGuinness, National Housing Party, United Kingdom, don't vote for Nigel Farage's half-hearted political message. A half-hearted political message is not going to save this nation. A half-hearted political message is only going to help the establishment and continue the status quo. Now I'm going to give you 3 examples, just 3, of Nigel Farage's half-hearted stance on very serious issues. And you could call it flip-flopping, sitting on the fence, betrayal. It's not what we want. And I'm going to give you 3 of these examples now. So the first one, which everyone will know of recently, is that Nigel Farage and Reform UK held a press conference on law and order, and they brought in a woman who looked like a man as their new law and order advisor, spokesperson, whatever you want to call it. And they clarified that they will continue to send men to women's prisons. Now, shortly before that, a lot of reformers were celebrating the fact that they were going to take LGBT rainbow flags down from town halls, yeah? And most patriots, Christians, would agree with that. But this is a blatant example of this half-hearted approach where they do things like that, and then the next minute they're reaffirming the woke establishment by saying, oh yeah, well, if the man's had a proper transition and lived as a woman for 30 years, we couldn't possibly send him to a man's prison. On a case-by-case basis, they kept saying in the press conference, right? Well, it's all well and good. Like, I don't even agree with that. Full stop. Yeah, if you're born a man, you go to a men's prison. If you're born a woman, you go to a woman's prison. End of story. That is the Christian way, and that's what built this great nation. But even their stance is flawed. They say, oh well, case by case basis. Well, it's all well and good if Nigel Farage was in power and his law and order advisor was head of the prison system. The next year they might have a totally different people in control, and because you've left that avenue open to allow men to be sent to women's prisons, they could send as many as they want if those men claim to be women. So this is a prime example of his half-hearted political message, which is weak. It's completely weak, and it's destroying our society, and Nigel Farage is part of it. So, 1 minute they're taking down the rainbow flag from town halls, which we all agree with. We don't want any foreign flags or these anti-Christian flags flying from our government buildings. So we don't want Israeli flags, we don't want Palestinian flags, we don't want Ukrainian flags flying, we don't want Pakistani flags flying. Yeah, we want, if it's in England, it should only be English flags and the Union flag. Simple as that. Scotland, be Scotland and Union flag, and so on. So that's one example. The other example is the Dover crisis, and he is basically deceiving the whole nation. He keeps saying they're illegals coming across the channel. People can say whatever they want. They are claiming asylum, which makes it impossible to treat them as criminals. We are signed up to the UN Refugee Convention. That's the facts. So Nigel Farage has repeatedly said he wants to stay signed up to the UN Refugee Convention and continue to accept refugees through the proper channels, whichever that means. He's saying, we're going to stop the boats coming across the channel, but we're going to continue accepting refugees through the proper channels. Now, accepting refugees is the root of the problem. That is why thousands and thousands of Africans and Asians are flooding across the channel, because they know they can claim asylum. So this is another example of Nigel Farage's half-hearted approach to solve the crisis at Dover. We've got an open door at Dover because of the Refugee Convention. Nigel Farage campaigns to keep that Refugee Convention on the table. He seems to think that he can stop these boats coming across. But when you're half-hearted about something, you're going to get exposed. And what will happen is, I've said this before, let's say Nigel Farage says, there's a war in, let's say, I don't know, let's say Eritrea. You know, there's a war there, and he's willing to accept refugees from Eritrea, which we do as it is now. Under UN refugee rules and what we're signed up to, they can easily qualify. So Nigel Farage is going to accept them if they escape Eritrea. He's going to accept them through the proper channels, give them housing, NHS, etc. But if they turn up on a dinghy at Dover, oh no, he's not going to take them. So what's he going to do with them? What is he going to do with these people on the dinghies who are actually from countries that easily qualify as refugees, which Nigel Farage has said he will continue to accept refugees through the proper channels? This is a half-hearted message he's sending out, and he's getting away with it because the masses are supporting him. And these are two very serious issues that people want solved. They don't want all this trans nonsense destroying our society. They don't want an open door at Dover, which needs to be closed. And the only way to close it is leaving the UN Refugee Convention, which Nigel Farage refuses to commit to. There's two examples of Nigel Farage's half-hearted political message. And, you know, you look at their website, they haven't got any solid policies on refugees or immigration. It's all half-hearted, okay? So another big one is Nigel Farage has openly said he unequivocally supports Israel. Unconditional support. You know, they're committing a genocide in Gaza. Now, what is a genocide? They have wiped out cities on the map. There's cities along the border of Gaza and Israel. They've wiped them out, completely removed them from the map. That is ethnic cleansing and a genocide. There's no other way to describe it. It's a total war crime. After World War II, these things were not supposed to happen anymore. Yet they can do it, and Farage is supporting it, right? Now, Farage is saying he don't want refugees from Gaza. Right, just to be clear, National Housing Party won't accept it. We don't want refugees from anywhere in the world, whether it's Gaza, Israel. You know, the litmus test for a lot of these people, well, if the Palestinians manage to win the war and then, you know, lots of Israeli refugees wanted to flee, would you take them into the UK? National Housing Party say no Israelis, no Gazans, no Palestinians. You know, the game's over. We can't take in any more people. We're on course to become a minority, and we're trillions in debt, and we're in a housing crisis. So Farage is supporting Israel, which is looking more and more like the UK are going to be taking Gazan refugees, right? Now, Farage knows full well that Keir Starmer's, the Labour Party, is going to be in power till 2029. They've got another 4 years, right? And we know that they are a pro-refugee fanatic party, right? So he knows full well that Labour Party are probably going to take thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe even more, Palestinian refugees who will be given citizenship and housing. And, you know, Farage hasn't even got the intelligence to not to support Israel in what's going on. Because a refugee crisis has been created because of what Israel has just done. And that's not the first time. All these Middle Eastern wars, Europe has been flooded with millions, mate. I'm not talking hundreds of thousands, I'm talking millions of refugees. And it's destabilised Europe. And, you know, more importantly, the UK. So there's 3 solid examples of Nigel Farage's half-hearted political campaign message you know, whatever you want to call it, and he is part of the problem. And I've been saying this since day one, never supported him. But another important thing people need to realise is, you know, you've got these other groups forming, like Advance UK, Tommy Robinson, all these people. All these people were in Farage's camp until recently. They was all going along with him. They was all going along with him till about a year ago. So, you know, Advance UK, they're pro-Israel as well. They, you know, I mean, it's you know, people got to really look about what party you want to join. And I'm saying, whatever you do, don't vote Reform. You know, we don't want a half-hearted establishment back in power, because that's what's going to happen with Reform. You know, there's a good chance they're going to win. And we need it to all fall apart. Labour and Tory were finished anyway. They were collapsing anyway. And the naive people are thinking, oh, we must all vote Reform now. No. Reform, they don't actually want to do anything that I agree with. They're pro-immigration, more refugees. You know, they said, oh yeah, they don't want Palestinian refugees. But this is it. This is another half-hearted message. Well, what refugees are acceptable then, Reform? Because they've made it clear that they will accept refugees and Muslim refugees through the proper channels. So, you know, don't vote for Reform. Join one of the smaller parties, preferably National Housing Party, United Kingdom. We're a Christian British nationalist party. We're sensible. We haven't got unrealistic targets or messages. You know, this is it, guys. The system's about to collapse, and it's just a matter of time. We don't need Reform to collapse the system. So please get on board, come and join us. Go to our website, nationalhousingparty.uk, £22 a year. Pat McGuinness, Christ is King. Thanks for watching. Thank you very much.